Hey, it's Sarah here. Would you like to know how to get over the excuses that are holding you back from becoming as good as you could possibly be in your business? If so, stay tuned for this week's episode of MLM Marketing Explosion.
How are network marketers like us supposed to rank, advance, and build a downline without begging our friends and family or having supermodel good looks? My mind was blown when I realized that the top network marketers aren't calling their friends and families to invite them to lame hotel meetings and in-home meetings. I've spent the last 2 years learning from and dissecting the system that top earners in the industry use. Follow me on the journey as I continue to learn and implement the top marketing tips and strategies to grow my downline. This is Sarah Peterson, and you're listening to MLM Marketing Explosion.
This week I had an interesting experience. I threw up in a group a post about excuses, and then I asked the question, what excuses are holding you back? And I really expected to see the responses come pouring in like they generally do. Generally, I see responses like, I don't have enough leads, I need to go to a different place or, whatever. But most of the time it's focused upon leads. They don't think they have enough people to talk to. They don't have enough leads. Well, interestingly enough, that is not the feedback that I got this time when I posted this particular post in this group. The responses that I was getting back were, I don't feel worthy enough. I don't think I deserve success. They were all based around that. They were all based upon these internal limiting beliefs. They weren't out external beliefs. They were internal beliefs that were holding these people back. And I thought that was really interesting because I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting it to be a whole lot of outward excuses. I don't have time. I don't have, money. I don't have enough people to talk to, all those kind of things. So I thought it was really interesting that it was internal problems that were holding these people back. And as I started thinking about that, it kind of struck me that that's actually probably what held me back in the beginning too, but I didn't realize it. I was focused on the outside stuff. If I just lived somewhere different, if I just had different people to talk to, if I just yada, 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 blah, 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 right? But really it was my fear of that rejection. And maybe on some small scale, it was the fear that I wasn't good enough to obtain it, because I was telling myself things like, things would be different if I wasn't the stay-at-home mom. Things would be different if I'd worked outside the home. Things would be different if, all these different thoughts, all these different things would run through my mind. But really it was my own limiting beliefs. It was my belief that maybe I wasn't worthy enough. And I don't know where all those ideas stem from. I'm supposing that part of it maybe is that, you grow up your whole life and it's like, you got to be humble, right? You don't want to be the person that stands out and says, hey, look at me. I'm totally awesome. Look at me, right? Because if you do that, I think it's looked at as you are the snob. You're like that aloof person, can't touch me. I'm better than a sliced bread or whatever, right? And so you start thinking, well, I'm good at that, but I don't want anybody to know I'm good at that, because if I act like I'm good at that, then hey, that's really weird, right? And a couple of years ago, I actually I'll go back even a little bit farther. So when I was little, I was teased a lot. I don't know why, but I was the kid that everybody picked on for about 2 years in elementary school. And I was going to say that was hard. It was more than hard. It was terrible. And, I'd kind of pretend like, everything was great, but it really wasn't. I hated it. And for whatever reason, that went away. I made friends, I did great stuff. I got involved in theater, had a ton of friends that way. And then we moved to California and I got a chance to start over. I mean, like completely start over from scratch. And, I knew who the popular kids were. I knew who the not popular kids were. That first year, I just struggled to keep my head above water, right? I was in high school. I didn't know anybody. I mean, really didn't know anybody. I think I had like 3 or 4 friends that first year. And then, I was involved in theater. I was involved in choir. I started to meet all these people. And crazy enough, this goes against every single cliche out there, but the popular kids were involved in the theater and the drama. We had, the football jocks that went into huge scholarships, that were part of this theater department. And I knew them and I hung out with them and, we were friends. And I never ever thought of myself as popular. And I'm pretty sure nobody else thought of me as popular either. But I had a lot of friends in a lot of different places. And one of my friends, happened to be the homecoming queen. She got nominated and won as the homecoming queen. And I loved this gal. I thought she was so cute and she was so put together. And she was friendly and nice to everybody. And I mean, from when I looked at her, I just, wow, I mean, I really thought the world of her. I mean, she was the genuine deal. She was the whole thing, man, if I could just be like her. Right. And we were friends, not like we were super, super close friends, but we were friends. We did stuff together. She was in theater and whatever with me. And a couple of years ago, I actually got the chance to see her again. We sat down and we talked for a couple hours, and it was so fun to get to talk to her and reconnect to her again. But this really stood out to me, because as we were talking, I told her that. I said, wow, I thought it was so cool that, you were the homecoming queen and you were popular. And I was never envious of her, minus that, it would have been really cool to be her, right? But it wasn't like I sat at home and was like, oh, that would be so cool. But, there was that tiny part of me that was like, man, if I could just be her, right? Just for like one day, right? And interestingly enough, as we sat there talking, she started sharing about all these insecurities that she had. Isn't that crazy? And she started telling me about how all of these things were not as I thought that they were, and how she dealt with the same exact issues and the same exact things that I was dealing with, right? She had the same insecurity. She had people that she didn't feel like were as good of friends, or, were maybe talking behind her back, or, life wasn't all roses like it looked like from the outside. You ever think about that? I know that's such a cliched, statement, the grass is not always greener on the other side, right? But I think it's true. Everybody as human beings struggle with those things. And I think sometimes when you're in the middle of it, it's really hard to see it. And you don't think that the top dog in like the business world doesn't worry about what could happen to his business. I will never forget this. I was at a convention a couple years ago, and one of the top leaders in our industry spoke from the stage. And she's someone that I admire. I mean, I really admire. I mean, talk about all put together. She's awesome on stage. She is super friendly. She's got a lot of energy. She totally always seems to know the answer to every question, right? And every struggle. And as she stood on the stage, she talked about how she lost a leg. One of her distributors decided not to be a distributor anymore and took a whole bunch of people with them. And she talked about how she struggled. Like she laid in bed, pulled the covers over her head, and did not climb out of bed for, a week or two, as she tried to wrap her head around how could that happen, right? And I liked knowing that. Now, I don't like that it happened to her, but I liked knowing that, because that's something that I've had happen in my organization. And I don't think I'm alone when I say that, right? And how do you deal with that? What do you do? First inclination is you want to crawl out of the covers, because it's like, oh, I worked so hard. How could that possibly happen? I've done everything that I thought I could do. And yet you can't. You got to go on. I see controversy around this statement all of the time, the fake it till you make it. And from the outside, I think that has a really bad rap, because it connotates that you're pretending to be something that you're not, right? Maybe you're flashing around checks that you're not making, or acting like you're doing way better than you're doing, or, whatever, right? It's kind of like that sleazy car salesman, no offense to car salesmen, but you know what I mean? It kind of gets that bad rap, right? I don't think that faking it till you make it is a bad thing. I know. Now don't jump off yet. Let me finish that statement, because there's things you have to fake. Have you ever had that bad day when you didn't want to climb out from underneath the covers? Maybe everything went bad and you're like, I just want to hide. I'm done. My kids call me, when I get like that, my kids call it Eeyore mode. Oh no, mom's in Eeyore mode. And you do that, right? But you can't. You're the leader. You can't do that. At least not to the public, right? So what do? You got to fake it. Maybe you turn on that fast, happy, fun music. You go for a walk. My most depressed days, I throw on my sneakers and I go for a walk, and I don't come home until I feel better. And sometimes I laugh that I'm in Southern California, and sometimes I laugh that I'm probably going to make it clear across the country, and I'm going to be in New York before I feel better. But lo and behold, it always makes me feel better. you listen to like that pump up music. Don't listen that day to the person that's doing way better than you, and don't listen to the person that's doing way worse than you, but do something to make yourself feel better. Those days that you don't want to go talk to somebody, have you ever had that where like maybe somebody shot you a message and over Facebook or maybe even in person, they're like, I'm really interested in your business, what are you doing? And all of a sudden that's what you've been praying for, right? That's what you've been hoping for, but now all of a sudden they've said it and you're like sweating bullets. Have you ever felt like that? And all of a sudden it's like, I don't know if I know what I know, right? Do you ever feel like that? It's like, what if I choke when I get on the phone? What if it doesn't go the way that I want it to? And that's where you get to put on the confidence hat, right? It doesn't matter. You're on a phone call or whatever. Maybe you're shaking like crazy, but they don't know it. You got to fake that confidence, right? People are looking for confidence leaders. Fake that confidence until you have confidence, right? Another thing to fake maybe being an extrovert, right? You're going to have to do things. This is probably going to come as a shock to you. I don't think that I'm actually an extrovert. I have more introvert tendencies on a weekend. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to go out with friends and I always have to be doing something, which is why you usually see me at like the beach or Disneyland or out on a walk or whatever. I have to be doing something. I'm constantly in motion, right? I can't just sit and watch a movie. I have to like be doing something on my phone or I just can't sit still. But I like to have my downtime. I thrive on getting out in big crowds, and then I have to have my behind the scenes time. And another thing that would probably surprise you is that it's actually, my phrase is fake it until you become it. And as you do these things, I have become these things. I used to be, one of those people that would go to the grocery store with the blinders on. I don't want to see anybody. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't make eye contact. Right? I didn't want that. And now everywhere I go, I look for people to make eye contact. I look to say hello. I look to ask somebody how their day is. That did not used to be me. And let me tell you, those first weeks, months, probably even the first year that I was trying to talk to people, and and I'm not even saying like talk to people to pitch them your opportunity. I just mean to like talk to people around town. I had to force myself to be that. I had to fake that was the person that I was. But lo and behold, that becomes a habit. You don't fake it anymore. That's who you are now, right? You become that person that you wanted to be. It happens. And then you no longer have to fake that confidence. You no longer have to fake that you like to talk to people. You no longer have to fake who you are. And I suppose you could argue that makes you fake, but I don't think it does. It's like anything else, right? You have to become that person. The person that you are today didn't just magically, happen. And I know that comes back to that nature nurture argument, right? But you become the person that you want to be, which is so powerful because if you like where you are, you get to keep becoming more of what you are. If you don't like who you are or maybe what you are, you get to switch it. You get to become somebody different. You get to fake those qualities that you admire in somebody else until you become that person or like that person. Kind of follow where I'm going with that? It's so powerful. I mean, so powerful. And you're still using your personality. You are still you. You're just adding different components into it. I called somebody in the very beginning when I was starting my business, and I wanted to show her what I was doing. She'd done pretty well in another company, and I finally got the guts to call her, and I was like, "Hey, would you like to look at this?" And now, granted, I do it differently now. You guys know that. But anyways, I mean, tons of guts to call her, right? And the first words out of her mouth were, "Well, I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal." And I hate to admit this, but on the days that I feel really bad, I mean, because you're going to have bad days, right? I look at myself in the mirror, or I grab my husband and I look at him and I go, I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of a big deal. And it's become this huge inside joke. Now, I didn't mean to make fun of her, but the way that she said it was, I'm kind of a big deal, was like, really? Because in my mind, nobody is a big deal, right? You're never a big deal. But you got to think of yourself as being a big deal, right? Before you make that big call, pump yourself up. I'm a big deal. I'm awesome at this. I'm so good. I'm so knowledgeable. And you guys, you're not faking it. You are. I was talking to someone the other day that does ads. He runs ads for companies and runs ads for himself. And he's good at what he does. And he was walking me through these different ad strategies. And as he was doing it, and he was doing it as a favor for me. I can do ads, but I'm not an expert in ads. And as he was walking me through these different scenarios, he stopped at one point and he goes, "Holy Toledo." He didn't say those words, but he was like, "Holy cow, I know way more than I realized I know." I was like, yeah, I know. Pretty cool, right? Isn't that weird? I think sometimes we are the last person to recognize how awesome we are. Isn't that weird? And shouldn't we sometimes, in that weird, not humble way, feel like we're a big deal? Now, I don't think you should go around, and I certainly don't go around and tell everybody what a big deal you are, because really, you're not a big deal in the whole scheme of things, right? I mean, you're just you setting out to be you. But if you felt like you were a big deal, would it change how you do stuff? I'm a big deal. Look at me, I'm a big deal, right? I know what's going on. You guys, if I sat down with every single one of you, I guarantee that you're a big deal. I guarantee that you know way more than you think that you know. You're not giving yourself credit for what you know. You're not giving yourself credit for what a big deal you are. And because you're not giving yourself credit, that's not translating out to the people that you want to attract. It's not translating out to the people as you go around town, because you can. You can fake stuff. Like if you stand up tall, if you have confidence, if you look them in the eyes, you can fake that stuff. It's totally fake, right? But it doesn't come off as fake. And you'll start to look at yourself differently because other people will start to look at you differently. It's like when a confident person walks in the room and you don't even have to turn your head, you just know that the energy in the room has changed. Have you ever felt like that? I went to South Carolina over the weekend, and as we were flying home, and I was thinking about, these answers on this post and thinking, I just want to tell you how awesome you are. Which leads me to a little squirrel moment. Go grab a friend. Have a friend write down a couple of things that they really admire about you, a couple of things that they think you're really good at, and start looking at those every single day, a couple of times a day, until you start to believe that that's something you're really good at. It's okay to be really good at something, right? It is. It's okay. And I think that that's a fallacy we got to get out of our heads. It's okay to be awesome. It's okay to be kind of a big deal, right? It's okay to feel good about yourself. That's fantastic, right? It's fantastic to have a great day. Have you ever felt like that? Like a friend will come up and they're like, "How's your day?" And you're like kind of feeling guilty when you're saying, "Best day ever," right? It's okay to have a best day ever. It's okay to make every day your best day ever. But anyways, back to what I was saying. All right. So I was in South Carolina, and as we were flying home and I'm thinking those thoughts, and I'm kind of thinking about that whole picture, right? That whole 30,000 foot view. Because sometimes when you're in the trenches and you're building your business, it's really easy, I was going to say, just to see the next step, right? Sometimes you don't even see the next step, right? Like you'll go to a training, or you'll hear a podcast or a YouTube video or something, and they'll tell you what to do next. And you'll think, I can't see it. I don't know where that step is, because you're stuck. You're stuck not knowing what you don't know, right? And so back to my analogy. So we're flying, we're up in the air. And it's cloudy. I mean, it's super cloudy, so we can't see anything the whole ride. And most of the way is just these pretty fluffy clouds, and there's sunshine in the distance, and things are rosy, right? We can't really see where we're going. It doesn't matter. The pilot knows where we're going, right? I can trust the pilot. So, here it goes. Here we go. We're headed towards that sun. And then all of a sudden, as we started to descend a little bit, we got into the middle of the clouds, and it gets really bumpy, and you can't see anything. I mean, you can barely see the wing, right, on the airplane. And you start to wonder if you're on the right track, right? You start to wonder if the pilot really knows what he's doing, right? He's the expert. Does my expert really know where they're going? And then there's the break in the clouds, and you can look below and you can see the ground below, and you can kind of get an idea of where you are in your journey. And then you're right back into the clouds again. It gets a little bit bumpy again. You start to second guess everything. You start to wonder if you should have just driven the car, right? Or whatever. You get a break in the clouds. And as you get closer to ground, it gets less and less clouds, and it gets more and more clear. And you land, and all of a sudden you're at the gate. You've arrived, right? And I think that's totally what building a business is like. You launch your business. You know where you want to go, right? I was in South Carolina. I wanted to come back to California. We launched. I'm ready to go. I'm so excited. Here we go. Guys, it was a 4.5-hour plane ride. I watched every single TV show that I had downloaded on my iPad in that time. And, when we first started out, it didn't seem that long. And every single seat on the plane was full. So even though I had a window seat, you kind of feel cramped because you don't want to take up space. And, by the end of the journey, it's like you want nothing more than just to be off that plane, right? Like I said, when we're up in the air, I don't like the turbulence. And lots of times I get sick. I get that air sickness or whatever, right? I get nauseous. And so when I'm up there, it's like, I don't want to be up here, and you start to wonder, have I made the right choice? Does the pilot really know what he's doing? Is this plane really the way I want to go? All those feelings. And it is. It's like building a business. You launch, you're so excited. And then you get up there in the air where you can't see anything. And maybe your leaders are telling you to do something, or you're hearing how to try something. And maybe you try it for a second. Maybe you get like that breakthrough in the clouds, and you can kind of see for a second. You're like all excited. And then maybe you hit that turbulence again, right? You're not sure. People are maybe criticizing what you're doing. People are maybe unfriending you or unfollowing you, or, you start to question those decisions. Maybe your spouse is telling you that you're spending too much time, or you're not making any money yet, or yada, 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 right? All those feelings. And your choices are to abandon, run up to the cockpit, tell the pilot, I'm done, get me out of here, abandon ship, jump out of the airplane with your parachute on, whatever. Or you can trust the people that have done what you're doing or are doing what you're doing, and you can keep following that guidance, and you can take faith in every single time that you have one of those wins, and you can trust that journey. And eventually you're going to land at your destination, right? Babe Ruth struck out far more times than he hit a home run. And yet when he stood up, he'd point to where he was going, and he'd swing that ball. I don't remember how many times he struck out. I just remember how many times he got that home run and how confident he was when he pointed up in the stands. The first time he pointed up there, do you think he was confident? I'll bet you he walked up to the plate and thought, am I really going to do this? How stupid is this? Because everybody's going to laugh at me if I point and it doesn't go there. After a while, do you think they were laughing? Bet you they weren't. Thomas Edison, I think if I remember right, it was 999 times. I could be wrong. It was a lot. Go look it up. How many times did he try to come up with the light bulb? Didn't work. You think everybody was calling him crazy? I don't even want to know how much money he probably spent trying to get it off the ground, but he had an idea. He knew it would work, which, crazy enough, now what's the symbol for an idea? It's a light bulb, right? Light bulbs went off in my head. He didn't quit. So remember him not because he quote unquote failed all of those times. And if you switch your thinking around, it changes too. You didn't fail. You learned a wrong way to do it. And I think along the way, he actually discovered other stuff too. And I'm going to give you one more mindset shift that made a huge difference to me, right? Because it's all about reprogramming your mind, right? It's okay. You're awesome. You're worthy. You're good enough. You can do it. I believe in you. And 110%, you guys, I have your back. Go join my Facebook group so that you can ask me questions and I can have your back. Because I want to have your back. I want you to have success. But here's one more thing that changed everything for me. When I got in, I was told, you don't have to be a salesperson. You're not a salesperson. You're sharing information, right? You guys, you are a salesperson. And it's okay to be a salesperson. Everything in this world revolves around sales. The last time you tried to get your kid to eat a piece of broccoli, you were a salesperson. The last time you tried to convince your spouse as to what movie to watch on the weekend, you were a salesperson. The last time you tried to convince yourself that doing the dishes instead of reading a book sounded better. You were a salesperson. You were trying to sell yourself, right? And that's okay. Be a salesperson. Own up to it. Get the skills to make you effective as a salesperson, and you will dominate. Thanks for watching MLM Explosions today. Go ahead and click like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Are you tired of bugging your family and friends and bumping into the same people all over social media trying to pitch your opportunity? If so, grab your team members and go to www.marketingexplosion.org and pick up your free copy of MLM Momentum. It's going to teach you how to get people coming to you and applying for your opportunity. It's also going to teach you how to get paid for prospecting. See you soon.